In today's episode, we're thrilled to welcome Dr. Pamela Stoodley, a medically trained doctor, neuropsychologist, and the founder of Mind Matter, a platform dedicated to uniting mind and body for transformative well-being. With expertise in child and adolescent developmental psychology, cognitive neuropsychology, and functional nutrition, Dr. Stoodley has spent her career helping individuals rewire their brains and break free from limiting beliefs. As the author of Cracking the Happiness Code, she offers a practical guide to emotional regulation and lasting happiness. So join us as we dive into topics like rewiring the brain, overcoming negative thought patterns, and how emotional regulation can help us achieve a healthier mind-body connection. Hello and welcome, Dr. Pamela.
Thank you, Mayim. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I know that you're in New Zealand right now, and I'm so excited to discuss rewiring our brains. But could you first tell me just how you got started and why you're doing what you're doing?
Yes, so as I had planned my career, probably when I was about 10 or 15 years old, was to be a doctor. So I thought, okay, what better way to give to society than being a medically trained doctor? And I got into the field, spent a bit more longer of a time than required because I somehow felt something missing in the system. I completed the degree. I started going about my way of treating patients. But there was this recurring thought that everybody wants to be well. They either don't know how or they fail for some reason, whether they can't stick to something that's been prescribed to them or they just give up because they feel it's too hard. And so I wanted to get to the bottom of that. And medicine, traditional Western medicine, did not have the answers to that. So when I came to New Zealand, I got into addictions counseling and it was very fascinating, this world of psychology. I took a deep dive into understanding the human mind. And that led me to believe that if this happens at a very, from the ages of 16 and above, the addiction habits and what have you, why not start from the very beginning? And so I got into child developmental psychology because you can only start from as far back as you go. And so this whole journey of understanding from the time a child is in the mother's womb, right up until the age where they suffer from whatever it is they want to change about themselves, at every step of the way, I decided to complete a course in everything that I could help them so that no matter who came to me at whatever stage in their life, I could be of service.
I love that. I love that. Wow. And you're so right. The modern medical system doesn't really address this issue, but it's such an integral part of healing. The
Yes.
psychology behind it, the mindset behind it. So, how do we rewire our brains?
It's a very simple question that someone asks me, and I tell them, you need to have a good 15 minutes to talk to me about that because rewiring for someone is completely different based on the needs, right? Where do you start? We often say you are what you eat, and then what you eat, you become. And then round and round that circle goes. So there is a nutritional aspect to it. There is also the emotional aspect to it. And that's why mind matter was created, mind signifying the brain and matter, the body. And I have an infinity loop between the two because not one comes before the other, and then both are intertwined. So if I were to tell someone, in order to rewire your brain, you need to first understand what is it that you want to rewire. And we start small. Is it something from a physical aspect that you want to change? Is it a physical trait? Like some people say they're very anxious all the time. Is that something you want to change? Is it a binge eating habit that you want to change? But the principle behind rewiring is that for so many ever years that you've been on this planet, you've created a very strong neural connection. So step one would be to break that connection, which will take time, and simultaneously start a new connection opposing that. So what is it that you want to change about what you've been doing? And that practice is what takes time. But people need to be compassionate with themselves to understand it's not a day's job, you know.
Okay, great. So I know it's going to be individual for every person, but what are some types of nutritional aspects that you've used to help with this process of rewiring our brains?
Now, as you've said, it's individual on a level of someone being, vegetarian, vegan, or things like that. But if we break it down to the very basics, people say drink 8 glasses of water. Well, does it suit your body? Do you have any kind of renal issues where 8 glasses of water might be detrimental to you? From a nutrition perspective, do you eat a lot of heavy carb diet just before you go to bed? Or do you give a gap to digest your food before you go to bed? What are your hours of eating? How do you distribute your main meals? And how do you fill in that little, that peckish snack time? What do you snack on? Do you pick a bag of salted chips or do you pick maybe, say, a handful of nuts? What you determine to eat, either mindfully or mindlessly, will affect the next few hours. And then it does affect the way you behave, the way you're able to regulate your emotion, and it also affects how you go to sleep. People often say a glass of wine a day doesn't matter. It does, it hampers your sleep because it'll initially prove to be a sedative, and then it will just keep your sleep at a very low, shallow level. It won't let you go into a deep sleep. So that's one example of just a glass of wine. And then you talk about caffeine. People have the habit of having chocolates that has caffeine in them. People have a cup of tea or coffee just before bed. It's the same principle. So a lot of what choices you make with the food you eat and the timing plays a huge role in rewiring.
Okay, great. So would you say that this nutritional aspect is always part of how you help people, or does it only come into play sometimes? Or
When I take history, this is where the Western medicine comes in. I always take history based on what their childhood was like, what their emotional experience was like, what their lifestyle is like. And the lifestyle gets broken down into, do you exercise or not? Is there movement? And what do you eat and drink? And what do you consume? Because consumption for me plays a huge role. You could exercise, you could go to bed on time, you could be, emotionally sound as per your labeling, but then you just eat junk and you think, and in this moment, it's fine, but there will be a price to pay. So getting that all round history and giving that all round awareness is part of my practice. Yeah.
okay, great. Can we now dive deeper into the emotional aspects and how that plays a role
Absolutely.
into rewiring our brains?
hmm So with the emotional aspects, one of the things that I often tell people is it starts as early as you think it possibly can. You have memory of your childhood from about 3. I don't think most of us remember what we were like when we were 1 or if we had dreams or memories. But if you were from the age of 3 and you had a sense of identity and a sense of knowing what things are around you, how are you being spoken to? That emotion, that time and period in your life actually sets a default state for you. If you are in a household where everyone tries to hurry you, you're not fast enough for the adults, you're not moving fast enough, you're very clumsy, you get told that. And you get told that you are that. You're so silly, you're so clumsy, look at you, you're good for nothing. And those children grow up believing, at some point, first resenting it, and then starting to believe that they might be it. And so they come to this adolescent stage where they start getting rebellious. And at an adolescent stage, they go through a whole period of redevelopment of the brain. That's why, you have your teenagers who behave just like a toddler. We have these emotional outbursts and tantrums, like they say, mood behavior disorders. it's exactly like that because they go through the same development. But at this crucial time now, they go through every single thing that they have been told. You're ugly. Look at you. You're fat. Your nose is this way. Your hair is this way. You're not good enough. You always cry. And then they start developing a sense of these physical traits being them. And that is where we have these issues of, emotional dysregulation. Because if they feel that they are like that, then you start behaving either similar to that or very anti that. So you get two kinds of people who become very introverted or who become very rebellious and go down the path of unwanted stuff, experimenting with different things, dangerous things. And if not corrected, you go on to become an adult of that sort. So, yeah.
Right. So some people either internalize these messages of programming from childhood and actually
Yeah,
become that, thinking that they can't overcome it, or
correct.
they rebel against it and they develop, maybe sometimes it can be healthy if they rebel against it, but sometimes it can also be destructive to themselves or their
Absolutely.
relationships, right?
So it depends on when they're rebelling. Are they rebelling the fact that they believe they are that way and that's why they're rebelling? Which in case it's not going to be healthy. But in my case, I would rebel because I believed I was not those things that I heard. So for me, it proved to be beneficial because I now carry that as a principle to teach my clients to do the same.
Love it. All right. So how about, can we talk about now crushing limiting beliefs and also breaking free from labels?
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite things to tell people is because we don't realize we're always living a label. I have fun sitting down a person in front of me and going, so, for example, if I would say, so who is Mayim? And then often the person would go on to tell me their religion, their achievement, their title, their profession, their relationship. And I'm like, but if that were not there, would you lose who you are? Would you lose your identity? Say you lost your job or you are not practicing a certain religion anymore, or, if someone didn't have kids and wasn't a mother. And so it becomes a very question, like a philosophical question, some might think, as to what is my essence. But the reason I do that is to make them understand that as much as we attach these kind of labels on us about profession and roles and responsibilities and all of that, the same goes for ugly labels that we stick to ourselves. I'm anxious. I'm awkward. I am ugly. I'm not good at anything. I always fail at this. These are just labels. And so the analogy that I often tell people is if I have a jar and I decide to put cashews in there, I'm going to stick a label on it to say cashew nuts. But the bottle doesn't care because tomorrow I could empty the bottle and put something into it. The bottle doesn't adopt the label and make itself a bottle of cashew nuts. So if we start firstly detaching ourselves from the label, instead of saying, I am anxious, which is my trait, I say, I have anxiety, which means it is something I possess. And if I possess it, I can detach myself from it without emotional drama, so to speak. The reason why a lot of people have difficulty changing is because they're fearful they might lose that identity that they so relate to, that they have believed to become they are. I am very shy. I am introverted. I have stage fright. You're not. You're not those things. Those are your challenges, So that's the first step that I would tell anybody is if you have labels, detach them from yourselves by not saying you are it, but it's something that you don't possess, have a challenge, have issues with. The other thing I think would be to actually analyze thoughts, but in order to analyze them, you first need to understand that 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day that pop into your head. You'd go crazy if you would believe every single thought of, that comes into your head and you would cave into it. So the way I would like to say is a thought is like a bubble, an empty shell. We attach meaning to it. And when we attach meaning to it, then that thought becomes positive or negative, just like we do with feelings, just like we do with emotions. People often say, failure, the thought of failing scares me. But failure sometimes is great because you learn a lot of lessons. You improve because you failed the first time. And so in that context, failure now becomes positive. So it's not the word, it's not the context of the thought, but it's the meaning that we want to associate. So if we start separating what that thought is and look at it like, why did I have that thought? Then it's easier for you to analyze what the next step should be. Should you pay attention to that thought or not? Is there a reason that thought came into your head? A lot of people would say, I often have this thought that if we have an earthquake and if we all died, then what would happen to my kids? I said, maybe there's a reason behind that thought. Have you been thinking about writing a will? Is there something at the back of the mind? The mind often has a foundational reason for developing a thought to pop into your head. So then they went, yes, because my cousins, when their parents died, they had to struggle to get that money that the parents left behind. I said, so that thought stems from this fear that you haven't actioned. Once you action it, once you write your will, and once you have it all done, you won't have that thought anymore. You probably have another fearful thought. But it's getting to that analysis part that's hard because you first need to understand, don't be triggered by every thought you think.
I love that. There's so much to unpack from what you just said.
Yeah.
So we go back a little bit to the labels? And I love how you said, instead of saying I am anxious, saying I have anxiety, because whatever you possess, you can give away, you can lose, you can destroy, right?
Yes.
So would there ever be a context, would you say, where you could say I am something?
I think gender is one. I am female. That's how I identify myself as in the form of gender. It can be a bit debatable for somebody who recognizes that they struggle with identifying themselves in a particular gender, but something as concrete as that, like I am 5'4", that's static. It's not going to change. I cannot rewire my height, you know? So something very concrete that is very factual, that can be measured, can be me. That is my physical trait, but not to say that I am fat or I am thin, because that can change. There's a spectrum. Your weight can fluctuate. My height can't. Um, Someone could say, I am blind. That's a fact. They can't see. So it's very factual things that you can say, I am this about myself. But if you go down the philosophical lane, a lot of people would still say, I can see with my mind's eye, so I don't consider myself blind. But for the most part, any descriptive adjective that we want to associate to ourselves, we avoid saying, I am.
Right. So, yes.
Mm.
So if there's something that we don't want to identify with and don't want to be, or don't like perhaps about
Yeah,
our current situation, we can treat it as something that is outside of us that can be gotten rid of, perhaps. And then
absolutely. Yeah.
how about things that we want to be and that we want to embody, even if it's very minor in us right now? Let's say we want to be
Mhm.
something. Do you think
Yeah.
that we should make those types of statements, such as, um, I am healthy, I am whole,
Yes.
I am healed,
Yes.
I am healing?
Yes. Because this is where I would say the power of words really matter, right? The first time when we start putting these labels, we're inadvertently having this negative self-talk. We are telling ourselves that we are not good. And so our brain starts developing this attitude is like, if that's how you say, let's behave that way. Let's make the body function that way, because that's what the brain's job is, right? And so when we talk about compassion and affirmations, that makes a huge difference. I do this with my 5-year-old ever since he was probably 3 or even younger. I would send him off to daycare saying, you are brave, you are smart, you are bold. And the most important thing is for you to have in life is to have fun and laugh a lot. And now he repeats those things to his brother. The idea behind that is it's very easy for parents to keep telling a child, you're very shy, you're very shy. And then this child repeats those words. When they meet a stranger, they say, I'm shy, because they start believing that. And so I told this mother, I said, for the next 1 week, tell your daughter that she's very bold. 2 weeks later, she gives me a call and says, my daughter is just walking up to strangers, talking to themselves. I said, nothing changed, just your words. You told her who she was, she embodied that. You told her differently who she was, she embodied that. It's easier with children because they suck everything. It gets harder when those words that you've used towards children, those children now grow up and they say, this is me, so it gets harder. So once we start using affirmations, you look in the mirror and people say, I'm bold, I'm brave, I can do this. You find things to be able to make that affirmation come true. It's sort of like you've bought a red car because you like red cars, and now when you go on the road, all you find is red cars because that's the focus. So words make a huge difference, and using them positively with compassion, telling yourself that makes a huge difference.
I love that. Okay, so what if someone is, doing these things, doing the affirmations, letting
Mhm.
go of, stripping off labels, but there's still the negative thoughts that keep coming. Will they always
Mhm.
come? Will they get less, or what should they do with these negative thoughts in the midst of, going through this process?
So I would say the first thing you would need to understand is write down, have a journal, and write down the thoughts, as many as you can. If you don't have a pen and paper on hold, record a voice note. I just had this thought pop into my head that someone's going to come and attack me because I'm walking down this alleyway. And then sit down with it and actually think, where's this thought coming from? Did I watch the news and someone said that someone got attacked when they walked in the alleyway? Did I receive someone's message that said that they knew of someone? There's always a reason behind a thought. They may seem irrational, but we passively listen to the news. People talk, we passively listen to other people talk. We watch a movie, we read a book. All of this has a lot of effects on our brain and how we perceive things. And what the brain does then is if we have a negative thought, if we don't pay attention to it and we tell our brain, it's just a random thought, that's fine. But if we tell our brain, oh, yeah, that might be true, the brain then does what the brain does best, is goes down a rabbit hole and makes it worse for you. You start thinking, okay, I texted my husband or my spouse and they didn't return my call. They usually are very quick. It's been an hour now. Something must have happened to them. And that's it. And then you go down this rabbit hole. Did something happen to them? Let me call them. Let me text them. We don't think something very rational could happen. And so, if I would say, if you're very much in the habit of coming up with negative reasoning as to why a thought popped into your head, challenge yourself is what we call reframing, right? So, if my husband did not respond to my call for 1 hour, instead of thinking, did something happen to him? I could easily think, well, he might be in a meeting. Something must have popped up. Or maybe his phone died. Or maybe he saw my call, he wanted a message, and then someone came and he forgot about it because he is forgetful. There are 1,000 reasons I can come up with which aren't so scary and such catastrophic thoughts. And so we teach people to reframe. But if they want to go deeper and understand why does it keep happening to them, then we teach them thought analysis as to record all your thoughts, and then sit down and analyze them. You might be having some deep down fear inside that, parents feel, what if something happens to me? Who's going to look after my kids? When you have this fear, which has not been addressed, these random thoughts pop into your head. Something might happen to you. You might be in an accident or things like that. So, yeah, reframing is a very important part of the rewiring aspect.
Absolutely. Yes. And it's very easy for us to discuss it, but having someone such as yourself to actually, help you through this process,
Yeah.
it's very valuable, I've been in coaching sessions and I tell my thoughts, and then the coach will suggest some challenges for that thoughts, some suggest
Yeah.
some alternative ideas, and
Yeah.
alternative reactions, emotions for those thoughts. It's very powerful. So if you feel like you can't do it yourself very effectively, I think it will be hard if you're not used to it. This is when, coaching
Yeah.
is very, very valuable.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't even say coaching because a lot of people sometimes can't afford coaches, but can, because of the government subsidy, can see a therapist or a psychologist. The only difference is that from a therapist and psychologist part, because I've been there, they would first try to unearth the meaning behind everything. And so the process can be a bit slow. However, I would really encourage people, if you just look up reframing, how do I reframe things? And you understand the concept that every time I have a negative thought, it's your same brain that's coming up with something more positive. No one's teaching you, no one's doing anything. They're just being challenged, right? But I would say that everybody has this one person that they feel can be a very logical thinker. Logical thinkers often are the case where they would tell you, oh, come on, mind, don't think like that, think positive thoughts. You have them as your everyday friends. So if people have no access to any of those, find that person, find that friend who is a logical thinker, not a very emotional thinker, and they will help ground you and bring you to that default point if you're spiraling out of control with your thoughts.
That's nice. But sometimes then there's the challenge of, if they're a friend, sometimes you don't want your friends to know, your personal
True.
innermost thoughts. Sometimes they're
That's
about mutual
true.
people. And so,
That's true.
that's when, again, like a coach is very valuable. And with your background, you do both, or
Mhm.
you can do both, right?
I so I've stopped practicing in a particular discipline because then I wouldn't be allowed to do everything else. Like as a medical trained doctor, I can't write, nutritional plans for everyone because then I need to be licensed to do that. I can't be an addictions counselor because then it, kind of contradicts what I'm doing. So because I have these disciplines in all these fields, I have created a holistic program in my business to just do that. And so I don't prescribe medication, but I don't think medication is what everybody requires. So,
Okay. So,
yeah,
all right. Okay. So, so many questions I want to ask you. But
yeah,
can we talk now about the importance of emotional regulation for a healthy mind-body
absolutely.
connection?
So the reason why I actually developed Mind Matter was to tell people that a lot of them think, I'm stressed. If I'm stressed, that's just going to wreak havoc on my mind and I might have a heart attack and one day I might have a nervous breakdown or I could die. And I'm like, that's the extreme. You need to think about those little things that happen as warning signs that your body's trying to tell you from the very beginning. Your immune system gets absolutely, it hampers your immune system majorly when you have emotional dysregulation. There have been studies that show that autoimmune diseases, cancers, IBS and things like that stem from not being able to regulate your emotion. That, along with the type of food you eat, affects your emotional regulation. So it's sort of the cycle that affects one another. If you make poor choices in your food, it affects how you respond. You might react because you're emotionally dysregulated. And because you're emotionally dysregulated, you then make poor choices with the food. So round and round that circle goes. And as for people talking about, I've got a rash on my body. I don't know where this thing came from, and I don't know why I'm feeling like I can't digest anything. If we sit down with this person, we will find that things like stress, anxiety, fear are probably that default state of that person. So, what the brain is unable to release, the body does. And the body does it in all kinds of physical manifestations. You can have hair loss, you can have early graying, or you can have, scarred skin, lots of spots, or you could have aches and pains in your muscles. And that all starts like early warning signals of emotional dysregulation. And then if you keep ignoring and ignoring, then it gets severe. And then you reach a point of no return. When people go like, I have this emotional breakdown and I was just about to do all kinds of things. So I tell people that if you are in tune with your body and you are in tune with your mind, any fluctuation on either side, you can easily spot it because you will feel from within something's not right. And so then you start addressing it. And so it's very important to understand what your default state is. Are you someone who's constantly at a very irritable state that no matter what time or day, you're always like in a state of fight or flight? Or you are in a very relaxed state? Yes, you might have highs and lows during the day. Something went bad at work, you yelled, you screamed, or maybe you cried. But then you came back to your default state, which isn't that anger or frustration. It comes back to a relaxed state, and you go, yeah, it had a rough hour in the morning, but I'm over it now. That's called regulation of emotion. But if that event that happened at 8 o'clock in the morning, you were frustrated, and that dictates the entire day, and you're stuck in that state, that's when you know you're emotionally dysregulated because you're stuck in a state which is not helpful to you.
Excellent. That was a excellent explanation of that. And I want to talk now, if we could we talk about your book, Cracking the Happiness Code?
Absolutely. So the very fact that I told the people in the beginning is that I could have made this cracking the happiness code or cracking the joy code or contentment code, whatever it is. The main reason being it's it resonates, the word resonates with different people. But the explanation of what I'm trying to speak about, that state, is like I was saying, it's that default state. Are you content at the end of the day with no matter what happened during the early hours till the night before your bedtime? Or are you someone who is fearful of something, who's anxious of something, and that's your default state? And in order to get to that, the book is actually divided into two parts. So the first is the whys. Why do we not have happiness as our default state? And it's backed by science. And then you come to the second half, which is the hows, is how can I then make happiness my default state?
Okay. Is it available on paperback, Kindle, audiobook?
It's Yes, so it's all available on Amazon. The link that's been mentioned is open to all geographical locations for their respective Amazon places. Locally, they're available in New Zealand at bookstores. But yeah, so select places in certain countries that they're in the bookstores for physical copies. If not, they can order online.
Okay, awesome. So I know that you are creating an app, right, for parenting.
Yes,
Could you talk a
yes.
little bit about that?
So my app was it actually the idea stemmed from writing a second book. This was supposed to be my second book, and then I thought, when a parent is going through that state of wanting to rip their hair out of their head because they're so frustrated, which can be challenging when you have kids, they are not going to go for my book at that time. They're going to go for something that's closest to them, which almost always is a phone. So the app is targeted at parents to be able to manage and regulate their emotions, because a lot of people out there teach parents what they should teach their children. For me, that's like passing the buck or the onus on to the child. The child's going to be a child. Yes, there are different things children can do in that stage, but what if they fail to do something? What can you do in that state? Should you lose your cool, which is not good for anybody in that situation? Or what can I create, something that would be helpful in the moment for you? And so it touches on emotional regulation, but it also touches on what the lifestyle of the parent is. Are you in the habit of drinking wine at 5 o'clock and then saying that you're not able to tolerate your child? There might be something to look in there, because that hampers your emotional regulation. Or did you know that if you are constantly watching something that emits blue light right until you go to sleep, that affects your sleep? And so then you wake up grumpy and then you still can't tolerate your child. So there's a cycle about everything. And it's a tool to empower parents to be even more awesome parents.
Well, I love that. You're so holistic. And let me also say that you're the second professional, psychiatrist, psychotherapist that I've met, excuse me, who has a holistic approach. So you are very unique. It's so refreshing to just to know you and to understand your background and your approach. So you have your website, all right? It's PamelaStoodley.nz. That's PamelaStoodley.nz, because you're New Zealand. And so what is available there? Kind of what, how can people work with you, get in touch with you, learn from you, etc.?
So for me at the moment, given my 1-year-old, I've kind of put a pause on the coaching because the focus changes. And I need, from a self-care perspective, to be my 100% to be able to give people. So I've paused on the coaching there. However, I still have my survey that is under Mind Matter, because I am actively seeking parents for their feedback. Since this app is catering directly to them, I want them to have a say into how this app can be positioned to help what they specifically require. So people can feel free to go to my website, go onto Mind Matter and find the survey there and take that survey. And I think for a couple of months, there will be a bit of a lull with the production and the development of the app. But otherwise, I'm active on social media and things like that if they want to follow. They can write to me personally if they have any kind of thought process that they would like to actively be involved into the program. And very soon, I will also have webinars and courses coming up in January. So probably, stay tuned for that by signing up to the newsletter. Yeah.
Great. And they can sign up. We can sign up for your newsletter through your website, right?
Yes. So when you take the survey, you automatically get signed up to be on the newsletter too. Yeah.
Okay. Let me, so if you don't mind, I'm going to actually share your website right now. And then I'm going to ask you how to get to that survey, because I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Here we go. So where would we go from here?
So if you go to Mind Matter on the top, yep. And if you scroll down, you should.
This right here.
Yeah.
Okay,
you put in your email. Yes. And you can even scan that QR code, which just opens up with the Google form for the survey.
This one right here. Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much. There's so much there. And just as a final question, before we close, would you mind just leaving a final word on how parents can instill confidence in their children?
The one thing I would say is confidence has got to do a lot with trust, self-trust, and self-belief. So if you want to tell your child to be confident, tell them to trust themselves, tell them to trust their instincts, and you show that you trust them, trusting it. If a child says, for example, that, I'm not hungry anymore, trust them because they know it. And if you trust them, then they get confident in their feelings, because they then feel, If I am feeling full, that means it's good because I can read what my body's telling me. And so I'm confident. And that plays out in matters of anxiety, stage fright. If a child comes and says, I'm a bit self conscious when I talk to people, just say, instead of the instead of the phrase that people usually say, it's okay, it's not okay, because that's why they're coming and telling you. Instead, say, I understand it can be scary. How about we try breathing? And then you ground them. And then they have the confidence that whatever it is their body is telling them, they have the confidence that they can go out there and do it. So just teach your child to trust themselves. And the confidence just follows.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again, Dr.
You're welcome.
Pamela Stoodley. And please, everyone, get her book and subscribe to that newsletter. Have a wonderful
Thank
rest
you,
of your
Mayim.
week.
Thank you, Mayim. Thank you so much for having me. Speak soon.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Algar and I am the host of Expertise TV, and I'm very excited to be introducing you to our guest today, Mayim Vega. Now, Mayim Vega is a former NASA computer scientist turned holistic healer after facing a very personal health crisis, which the modern medical system could not resolve. In 2009, she founded Arukah.com, which offers an holistic healer certification program focusing on 3 pillars: naturopathic herbalism, holistic life coaching, and online business and marketing to empower people to become holistic healers and achieve maximum impact in the world. Mayim combines her scientific background, natural healing methods, and faith in the creator and great physician to guide others on a path to personal and professional well-being. Mayim, it's clear that you are very passionate about the topic of holistic health and particularly helping people who are wanting to transition into this approach. How did you find yourself in this line of work, and why is this work so important to you?
Thank you, Ashley, for taking the time to speak with me. And I'd love to answer that question. So, the way I found myself in this line of work starts with my story of when I transitioned from becoming a computer scientist at the NASA Ames Research Center to becoming an entrepreneur and building my first online business in digital marketing. And the reason why I did that is so that I could stay at home and be with my newly born son at the time. And now I have 7 children of my own, and I always wanted to homeschool them and just be there for them. And so that's why I became an entrepreneur. But my first few years as an entrepreneur was extremely difficult. And I thought it was healthy, but later on, after all my studies, I realized there were a lot of things that I was doing that was not very healthy. They were not very healthy habits that I had. And what ended up happening was I got really sick and I thought I was on my deathbed. And I was rushed to the emergency room. And the doctor actually thought that I had a brain tumor. But after extensive testing and examination, she told me that there was nothing wrong with me. I was experiencing a lot of pain, but they had nothing for me. There was nothing they could do for me. She said that she could give me some really strong painkillers, but that's really it. She couldn't really get rid of the problem. And so I took the painkillers, but again, painkillers and any pharmaceutical drug never address the root cause of illness and disease. And that's exactly why this line of work is so important to me and why I went on my own personal journey to become a holistic healer, to study nutrition, herbalism, holistic health, and holistic life coaching, is because we all know people, and maybe probably even ourselves, who, just like me, went to the modern medical system because that's the expected thing to do. That's a normal thing to do. And, tried to get health and healing that way, but hit a dead end, hit a brick wall, and we either got medications that didn't work or that only worked for a while or that caused side effects that were so terrible that we had to get on other medications, plural, and maybe even the medication or medications caused side effects that caused other health issues. And sometimes the health issues are worse than the first problem that you originally had. And we're on this ridiculous roller coaster of drug after treatment after procedure, because the modern medical system never addresses the root cause. And medical professionals who have woken up know this. And that's why I have medical professionals in my program, including, doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, medical technicians, etc., who are learning from me, who are, taking the certification program, because they realize that our system is broken and we need to fix it. It is our destiny as humanity to overcome all this nonsense, really. We can do better and we will do better. I know it. And that's why, in my certification program, sometimes I joke around. No, it's not really a joke, but I say, I'm empowering not just holistic healers, but holistic warriors. We're in a battle. We're in a battle over our own health and healing to safeguard and protect that, and that of our families and friends and community, of course, as well. And we're also in a battle against very powerful people who, because of profits, like to suppress holistic health and healing truths to keep us just sick enough so that we need something, pharmaceuticals, but not well enough to ever get off them. That is truly the goal of big pharma, of the pharmaceutical industry. It's not true. They don't want to heal us. They don't want to cure us. They want to keep us just sick enough so that we keep giving them our money. And you know what? Me personally, I have better things to spend with my money, like on good food, clean herbs, things that don't cause these ridiculous side effects that we experience with pharmaceutical drugs.
Thank you, Mayim. So that brings me to my next question. What are some of the key benefits of transitioning from the conventional healing approach to a holistic approach in health and healing?
Okay, so that's another really great and important question. The key benefits of transitioning from conventional healing to a holistic approach are, right now, I can think of three main reasons. Number one, the holistic approach is safer. Number two, the holistic approach is more effective. And number three, the holistic approach is the true approach that gets to the root cause. Okay. Now, I'd like to illustrate the first point, the safety of holistic medicine. If someone who was taking some, let's say blood pressure medication or something like that, visited me at my house, let's say I invited them over for dinner, and let's say they had to take some of their medicine and they dropped one of their pills, right, in my dining room or in my living room floor. Now, I have very small children. I have a 4-year-old. And what if my 4-year-old found that pill on the floor and thought it was candy or something like that and put it in her mouth and ate it? What would happen? I would immediately have to call the poison control center to get that pill out of her system, because those pills can have deadly side effects. But what if someone dropped a vitamin C pill or a tincture, and one of my children found it? For the most part, if they found it and took it, they might have a little diarrhea. It might be really spicy on their tongue, and so they would stop taking it. But no, I wouldn't have to control the poison control center, because vitamins and herbs and minerals are extremely, like 1,000 times safer than pharmaceutical drugs. There's a few types of supplements that you might have to call the poison control center. But for the most part, no, you won't have to do that because our body knows how to work with those substances. It is not a drug. It is a healing tool. Okay. So completely safe. Also, exercise, diet, those are all safe, right? Sleep, those are all part of holistic health and healing. Completely safe, zero side effects. Now, let's talk about the effectiveness. The holistic approach is more effective. And the reason why we know this is because in my practice, and this is the experience of many holistic healers, when it comes to the conventional ways with the pharmaceutical drugs, as I said before, they don't deal with the root cause. They just mask symptoms. So, you might take a cough suppressant, let's say, for example, but if you are not dealing with the root cause, why are you coughing in the first place? Why do you have allergies? Why do you have the flu, etc.? Why is your immune system not strong enough to overcome this in just a few hours or just a day or two overnight? Why? Because you have not built up your immune system. You haven't boosted it or lived the kind of life that you need to in order to avoid those common illnesses altogether. I have one of my students is a medical doctor, and she said that she used to take anti-allergy drugs every single week because of her allergies. The allergy drugs don't boost your immune system; they just suppress it. They just oppress your allergy symptoms. But when you have allergy symptoms, it's your body talking to you and telling you, hey, I can't deal with this. I can't deal with this thing that you're eating or this environment that you've just stepped into because of my state of being. I'm not strong enough. That's what your immune system is saying to you. But I taught her a really powerful vitamin protocol that actually boosts your immune system so that your immune system is strong enough to overcome allergies. And so that's the difference. It is effective because it is true. It is true holistic health and healing because it strengthens your immune system. It doesn't silence it, like I said before. And the third issue is the root cause. Holistic health and healing deals with the root cause, and the conventional approach of drugs and surgery, etc., does not. That doesn't mean that you sometimes don't need surgery, for example, or in an emergency situation need a drug, but you're not dealing with the root cause. And if you deal with the root cause, you can make your problems either go away or become extremely minimal, safely, effectively, and naturally without poisoning your body and causing the roller coaster of side effects.
Mayim, you have developed an incredible program that you've already mentioned called the Arukah Holistic Healer Certification Program, which you have specifically created for those looking to either transition into the holistic approach or for those who are wanting to grow in their knowledge and practice. Can you talk us through what differentiates this program from other similar programs that are currently out there?
Thank you, Ashley. Yes, the certification program at Arukah.com is really, truly incredible. And there's a few things that set it apart, actually, many things, but I'd like to focus on a few. And one of them is that when I designed the program, I designed it for someone who is in my situation many years ago, someone who was a busy mom who had a lot of work to do and a lot of things on her plate, but still wanted to empower herself with the knowledge of holistic health and healing for herself, for her family, so she could take care of her family, and maybe even build a career where, very specifically, she could stay at home and, just like me, be a stay-at-home mom. And, even a homeschool mom. I've been a homeschool mom. My oldest is 20 now, and I homeschooled him the whole way. And he's already graduated college, and he's got a computer science degree, and he's an entrepreneur himself. I instilled that dream in him. So being able to, I was able to surpass my income at NASA, and still homeschool my children. It's pretty awesome achievement. And so I wanted to empower people in my program to do exactly the same as I've done, to become a holistic healer, to have a successful online business so that they can have time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom, meaning that there's no glass ceiling. No one who you need to get a raise from. You just have to help people. That's how I get paid, is when I help people, right? And so that's one of the advantages. Another advantage is it's very hands-on and apprenticeship based. And you could go to a college to study to become a naturopathic doctor, or another holistic professional like a chiropractor. But it's going to take a lot more money, and a lot more time as well. This program can be completed in 1 year, but because all of my students pretty much are busy professionals already, or busy moms, it's self-paced. So if you have a lot of things on your plate, it's okay. It's still going to be there for you. There's not like a time limit. You're not going to, your grade's not going to be lowered because you submit an assignment late or anything like that. It's self-paced. And so I've designed it for the busy mom, or the working woman. And another thing that sets it apart is we have three core pillars in our program. One is that our students study naturopathic herbalism, and that takes up the bulk of our program. And naturopathic herbalism includes studying the foundations of holistic health and healing, identifying toxins and detoxification, also nutrition and orthomolecular nutrition, or megadose vitamin therapy, as well as herbalism, which includes also homeopathy and aromatherapy with essential oils. And also they study Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine. But it's mostly focused on Western medicine, Western herbalism, excuse me. And then the next core pillar, the second one, is holistic life coaching. And the reason why holistic life coaching is part of the program is to incorporate the mind spirit aspect of it, right? If herbs and supplements are the alternative to pharmaceutical drugs, well, holistic life coaching is like the holistic alternative to psychiatry. It deals with the mind and the spirit, and spirit has to be part of it because we are spiritual beings. We're not just physical beings. We're also spiritual beings. Now, a lot of holistic health and healing schools are based on, different religions, New Age, or, other pagan religions. And this program, because I'm Jewish, is based on the Creator. It's based on the Bible and biblical principles, Judeo-Christian principles. And so therefore I have a lot of people who are of that faith persuasion, Jews, Christians, or people who maybe, they don't really identify as Jewish or Christian, but they're open to it, or they grew up in that faith. And they don't necessarily want all the new age spirituality. They want the kind of spirituality that they are comfortable with and used to. That's another thing that sets us apart. And life coaching is all about mindset and how to have healthy relationships with yourself, with others. Of course, also, with food and your body and lifestyle. Holistic life coaching encompasses all of that. And it's a very important part of holistic health and healing, especially because stress is often the root cause of many illnesses, common illnesses, and also chronic diseases. So, that mind and spirit aspect is very important. And the third aspect is online business marketing. And again, the reason why that's important is because, as I told you, I really want my students to thrive and to be able to, have that time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom, which which an online business provides, but also because, there's not a lot of jobs for herbalists, or life coaches even. And so we really have to be entrepreneurial. And it's very, very rewarding. And because of my background, with my digital marketing business, my first business, I can really help people in that department.
Thanks so much, Mayim. So I love the power of testimony and hearing people's personal experiences or journeys. Can you share some of the success stories that might be coming to mind or testimonials from past students?
Yes, we certainly have a lot of success stories and testimonials, and we'll show some of those testimonials at the end of our talk today in this video. But I could talk about a few of them that that are maybe recent. One of them is one of my students. She told me that she wanted to become a nutritionist, but I guess her life's journey didn't really allow for that. So when she heard about my program, my certification program, when it first launched, she joined, and she really wanted to help her husband, who had been suffering from colitis under the care of doctors for about 20 years, ever since he was in the military. And he was going from medication to medication and, suffering with diarrhea and insomnia and restless legs and indigestion and, all these terrible things that colitis can cause. And so I actually created a custom module for her to help her husband with that. And in 2 months, she helped her husband get off the medication and heal from colitis using food and herbs and natural holistic healing methods. So that was a great accomplishment for her. And I get people, contacting me saying that I helped them grow their hair back, or actually someone said, "Oh, you helped save save a little girl's life." Just beautiful, wonderful things like that. You helped me heal my daughter. You helped me grow, regrow my teeth so I don't have pain from cavities anymore. Like just all these wonderful testimonies. And that's the reason why I love doing what I do. And and you will too, if you join the program. It's so rewarding and fulfilling to understand and to know that you are helping people, truly helping people in ways that they can't get in the modern medical system. It's so rewarding.
Incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mayim. I can only imagine the sense of reward when people start applying these principles to their lives and actually see a change and transformation. And for somebody as passionate as you are around this topic, to witness that and to be a part of that, I imagine that the reward is priceless. So another common question that arises is, once someone completes the program, what are some of the practical steps one would take in order to start a successful career in holistic health?
Okay, that's a great question. And that's actually what the third pillar of our program is all about is, what do you do? Practical steps on what you would do to start a successful career in holistic health. And in that program, we teach our students how to create a high ticket transformational health coaching program that really helps people deal with a serious problem, a serious health issue. And that doesn't mean that it's a deadly, problem, but it can be something that really affects their life, right? Even skin disorders can really affect your life, right? Even though it's not necessarily deadly. Weight loss could be something that is dealing with a serious issue. There's so many different types of health coaching programs that one can make, anxiety, depression, hormonal issues, etc. So they build, it's part of the program. They will do this while they're still in the program, and we'll support them the whole way, is to build that first high ticket health coaching program, and then set up their online assets, such as their website, their social media, a video sales letter, press releases, podcasts, all those things that online entrepreneurs need in order to connect with people, get their message of health and healing out there, and build and grow and scale their business.
Thank you so much, Mayim. It's been so great talking with you today. But before we close, for those that would like to get started on the journey to becoming an holistic healer and wanting to learn a little bit more about the certification program, how do they go about contacting you?
Yes, it's been wonderful talking to you today as well. And for all those who would like to get started on their journey to become a holistic healer and learn more about the certification program, all they need to do is visit the website, www.arukah.com, ARUKAH.com, and dig into that and schedule a discovery call. And I would love to be your mentor, your health coach, your teacher in guiding you to become a holistic healer, to become the healer of your home and your family and your community, and to help you build a profitable online health coaching business.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Mayim. So there we have it, folks. If you are ready to move forward in your own journey of becoming a holistic healer, then you can visit the website at www.arukah.com, where you can schedule your first discovery call. Thanks so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.